Okay, guys, so please don't forget to turn your cameras on. Are you guys there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's wait 1 more minute, see if somebody else joins. Don't forget your cameras. Okay, so I think we're gonna have to start. Well, what we were saying that we were gonna do today, and this is like an extra thing. We're gonna be talking about first the changes that have been done to the TOEFL test, starting July 26th, we said. So Walter, when are you planning on taking the test?
I don't have a date to take the test, so I think it will be after the change.
Okay, so you still don't have a date, so there's a chance that it's after July 26th, right?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, they have changed. They haven't changed much, but I would say that they have made it total test a lot easier. So this is a chart that summarizes the changes that have been done to the test, section by section. So in the reading section, although they have shortened it, there have been no questions. Okay, I'm not sure. Oh, sorry. This is a chart that shows that compares the old format to the new format, each section by section. So let's start in the reading section. So I don't know if you remember, but in the reading section, we said that there were going to be 3 or 4 reading passages. And it was 3 or 4 because you usually had one that was unscored, so it was an extra task. And we said that each passage contained 10 questions, right? And you had 18 minutes per passage. So what is going to change about the reading section? Basically, the only thing that's going to change is instead of having 3 or 4 reading passages, you will now only have 2. You don't have any more extra or unscored tasks, and it's only 2, but everything else stays the same. So these 2 reading passages are going to be exactly like they were before. You will have 10 questions per passage. You will still have 18 minutes per passage. So everything's still the same, right? The only thing that's actually changing is the number of passages. Before you had three or four, and now you will have only two. So it's a lot faster. Is that okay? That's the only change that's been done to the reading section of the test. Now, next section is the listening section. So listening, no changes have been made to the listening section, except that before you used to have this extra task, but now you don't have it anymore. So you used to have these random unscored questions in the listening section, but now forget about those unscored questions. Everything's the same, but you won't have the unscored questions anymore. So you still have three or four lectures and two or three conversations, but no more unscored questions. You still have the same time. So really nothing has changed in the listening section. The only thing that's changed is that you don't get those unscored sections. Is that okay? Any questions about that? Listening? Nope. Now, speaking section stays exactly the same. So everything we're doing for the listening and we'll continue to do the following weeks for the listening section is going to be staying the same. We still have 4 questions in the speaking section. They still last 17 minutes total. So no changes for the speaking section. Nothing's changed. Now, the one thing that has changed is the writing section. So before, you used to have 2 writing tasks, the independent and integrated. And in total, it was 15 minutes, almost an hour. Now you will still have 2 writing tasks, but it's only going to be 30 minutes. So the first task, the integrated task of the writing.
I can't listen to you.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So what I was asking you, Walter, is have we already done the writing section with your group?
Excuse me?
Have we already done the writing section with your group?
No.
We haven't yet. Alejandra, with your group, have we done the writing section?
Of the say of four parts. Yes. 30 minutes. Yes.
Okay, so we've done one writing section. Is that what you mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Let me see. Independent writing.
Okay, we've done the independent writing. Walter, we haven't done the independent writing with you, right?
I don't remember.
I think we have. I
Yes,
think we have.
I think yes.
Okay, so that is the task that's gonna be changing in the new test. That is the only thing that's actually gonna change. Everything else is gonna be shorter, but the only one that will change in terms of content is the independent task. So if you guys are gonna take the test after July 26th, then you have to forget about that independent task that we did, because now it's gonna be different.
But
If you take
different
that,
in what way?
we will see now. But
Okay.
only if you take it after July 26th, right? If you take it before, then you still have the one we did. So now instead of being an independent writing, it's gonna be an academic discussion. So it's like, you will see, but it won't be an independent writing anymore. So it's actually kind of integrated, you will see. And it's only 10 minutes long. So it's a lot shorter than the other one. Before you had to write like 250 to 300 words. Now you will only have to write at least 100 words. So we'll see. Okay, guys, so I want you to see this video that the ETS has posted. And this is a description of how the new writing section or the new independent writing will be. So let's see. Okay, guys, I think you're gonna have to play it on your own. I don't know why it isn't loading here. Like 20 minutes ago, it was loading just fine. So please go to that link that I sent through the Zoom chat and please play the video. Okay, let's watch this video. No writing task. Okay, it's important that we do. So go to that link and open this video.
Question
Although it's already here, so I'm gonna play it.
Question 2 in the TOEFL IBT writing section is the writing for an academic discussion task. Here's what the task will look like. For this task, you will write a post in an online academic discussion. You'll read a question from the professor and responses from other students. This example is a discussion in a business class about advertising. Express and support your opinion and contribute to the discussion. You have 10 minutes to write your post.
Okay, so that's how the new task will look like. So as you can see, it's no longer gonna be an essay that you have to write. It's less academic in terms that it won't be an essay. You only have to write one paragraph. Okay, that's all you need. Now, in the instructions, basically what they explain is that Dr. Diaz, in this case, on the left, this is your professor. You have to imagine that you are part of this class. So in this case, Dr. Diaz is your professor, and she is raising a question. She is raising a question up to debate in the class. Now, the question that the professor will raise, honestly, is kind of the same as the independent question before, because it's still a closed question where you have 2 or 3 options to choose from. So it's similar in that way. So they explain a lot, and basically at the end, they raise the question. The question here is advertising just a way of manipulating people to buy things they do not need? Or is it an important source of information that helps people make informed consumer decisions? Right? That is the question that the professor is raising. The question is making, and the student I'm so sorry, guys. My connection. Okay, so what we were saying is basically we were talking about this question, right? And we said you won't have to write an essay anymore, but in this case you will still have to answer a question, right? Now we were looking at the question. This is the question. This is the important question. And I was asking you, is it a closed question? It is, right? Because you only have two possible answers. There are two options here. What are your two options? Can anyone tell me?
Manipulating people or source of information.
Exactly. Great. Thanks. So those are your two options, right? Option one is you're saying that ads just manipulate people. And option two is saying that ads are actually important sources of information. Now, before you write your response, you will have to also read other students' responses. So you will always have two students that answer the question too. And you have to do something similar to what they did. So for example, we have Karen here. Walter, could you please read Karen's response?
First, I don't think most people consider ads to be valuable. I read that in just 1 year, from 2018 to 2019, the number of computers, tablets, and more phones using ad blockers increased from 142 million to 615 million.
Okay, so Karen has an opinion, right? What is Karen's opinion? She chose between these two options. What is her choice?
They consider that ads don't manipulating people.
Ads just manipulate people, right? They don't have valuable information. That's what Karen is trying to say. That most people don't consider ads to be valuable. So they don't have good information in them. That's why many people use ad blockers, right? Because they don't want to see ads. So she is against that. She believes that they are just a way of manipulating people and they don't contain any valuable information. So what about Brad? Let's see what Brad says. Alejandra, could you please read Brad's opinion?
People can find out a lot about products from advertising. There's plenty of evidence that people usually begin the process of making a big purchase by looking at ads and reviews. I have to go to another class right now, but I'm going to post later about an advertisement that gave me a lot of useful information.
Okay, great. So in this case, Brad has a different opinion, right? What is Brad's opinion?
That ads are good for information.
Exactly. So as you can see, the first and the second student have opposing views. They have different points of views, different perspectives on the same topic. And it's always going to be like that. You have two students, one says something and the other one says the opposite. So what do you guys have to do? You have to write a post like the one that Karen and Brad wrote. It should be longer. They say that an effective response should contain at least 100 words. And in your response, they say that you should express and support your personal opinion. So you have to answer the question. And then you have to support your opinion. So why you feel that way. And you have to make a contribution to the discussion. So you have to add your own reason too. You cannot just use whatever Karen and Brad said. You have to make your contribution to this discussion. What you say has to be useful in the discussion. Okay? So we're gonna see how to do that. But is the instructions clear? Is the format clear of this question? So according to the ETS, these are the new rubrics. Okay, so I want to look at this, but I want to also see how we could use this in reality, right? So they say, to earn a top score, you should state and support your opinion about whether one or the other option is the best. Your response is a contribution to the other two students' post. Be sure to add your own perspective to the discussion, not merely repeat ideas that have already been stated. So when you're writing, you cannot just use Karen's and Brad's ideas. You have to use your own ideas as well. They say that you should have write at least 100 words, although that's not a word requirement. That's just an effective response. And then they say that you might agree with Kelly, or you could argue, you could add your own arguments, or you might agree with Andrew, right? So in that case, you might agree with Karen, or you might agree with Brad. And then this is something interesting. They say that you may find you agree with a point Kelly made, even though you think education is more important, or you might even find that in your opinion, both should be a priority, right? So basically they're saying that this question is more open than the previous one because you can have a middle ground. You can be in between. Although I don't suggest that you guys do that. Okay, so um, we're gonna have one structure, and I really recommend that you guys follow it for this task. So let's. Okay, guys. So here's what we're gonna do. In your response, we said that first thing you should state your opinion, right? Now, in order to state your opinion, what you're gonna do is you're not gonna answer the question directly. First, you're gonna say whether you agree with one or the other student, okay? So the first element that you're gonna have is who or yes, who a student or which student do you agree with? So basically what we're gonna say in the first sentence is say, I totally or I completely support, and then the name of the student, right? So, and then you'll say opinion, okay? Or maybe perspective, I don't know. So for example, we're gonna do a sample response. In our example, we have Karen's point of view and Brad's point of view. Which one do you think we could go for? Do you guys agree with Karen or with Brad?
Both, because they
So Brad,
Brad,
Brad, okay. So in that case, in our first sentence, what we're gonna do is say that. We're gonna say, I completely support Brad's opinion, okay? So I completely support Brad's opinion. That's gonna be your first sentence. Now, after you say that, you're not gonna repeat Brad's reason because Brad gave a reason, right? Brad said that there's evidence that people begin the process of making a big purchase by looking at ads and reviews. That was Brad's reason. That people start the process of buying something by looking at ads. You're not going to repeat the same idea. What you're going to do is you're going to add another idea that supports Brad's opinion as well. So your opinion is that ads actually contain useful information. So you're going to add one more reason to support Brad's opinion. So what reason can you guys use? Why else would you say that ads are contain valuable information? Can you try to think of another reason? Can you guys think of another reason? So why are ads? Why do ads contain valuable information? Why?
Because shows what the product is.
Okay, they show what the product is. You have to make sure that that reason that you add wasn't mentioned before, right? So we're gonna reread. Do they say something similar? I mean, what you're saying, I think, is related to Brad's point, right? That they contain information about the product. So people start the process of making a purchase by looking at ads and reviews, right? So an advertisement that gave me a lot of useful information. So I don't know. I think it's similar to what Brad said. Can we think of something else? Remember, we are saying that advertisement is an important source of information that helps people make informed consumer decisions. So what else can we say? Come on, think about it.
Catch the attention of people that don't have time.
Okay. So, yeah. So you said that it's good for people who don't have enough time to actually I don't know, to what? To see more.
To go to watch the product in touch of the product.
Great. I love that idea. Nice. So you could say that. Now, how do you say it? You can say something like, I might add that. So you're adding to Brad's response. Or if you want, you can be more natural and delete that part and go directly to your reason. So you could say, I completely support Brad's opinion. And now you could maybe say something like, besides, and then here you will include the point that was made by Brad, right? writes point, and then you give your own point, your reason, right? So you could say, I completely support Bryce's opinion. Besides advertising being the first step when making big purchases, it also helps consumers save time as they don't have to go and see the products themselves, but instead they get the information on their screens, or maybe you could say on social media, on billboards, when they are doing something else, right? So you could say something like that. We're gonna say besides right? So I'm saying advertising step for many people when making a purchase. This is right. That was what Brad said. So besides Brad's point, now you will give your own point. So besides advertising being the first step for many people when making a purchase, it also helps consumers save time as they don't need to go and see the product for themselves, but they can find all the information they need to know to make the purchasing decision in an app, right? So that's what we're gonna say. What exactly do I write, Alejandra? What would you write?
I can say I think in this part or no.
Yeah, but I don't recommend you do it. It's kind of the same as saying independent writing. Here you can say that what you think, right? I think that advertising is a great source of information. But when you give your reason, try not to say I think. Try to say it like if it as a fact. So what are we gonna say?
To start. And to start, I can set to start or in fact.
Don't use any of those. That was for the previous question. Because this is the same sentence. So besides advertising being the first step for many people when making a purchase, you have to continue the same sentence. You won't start a
Okay.
new sentence.
Okay. Entonces, advertising allow people save time. Allow people to save time.
Okay, we're gonna leave it there and maybe add one more sentence explaining how or why people save time, right? So explain more in another sentence.
And this is for example or no the example?
No, you don't actually need to give an example, but you do need to try to give details, right? So here you're saying that people save time. So maybe tell me how, right? No, you don't necessarily have to give examples. Maybe you can try to give facts like the other students did, but in this case, you don't need to give examples. And in personal examples, are not such a big thing here like they were in the previous question. So just explain, right? Support your opinion.
The most of the consumers use the advertising to uh, select the product that they need
Okay. To choose the
or
product, right?
goes to
I'm sorry, Walter.
before goes to the store.
Okay, good. So most consumers use advertising to select their preferred media before even going in the store. Okay, but I think this is the same as Brad's, right? Because what you're saying is the first thing they do when making a decision is seeing the advertising. So you're saying kind of same as what Brad already said. Try to learn more of the idea of how consumers save time. So tell me something like most consumers don't have the need of going to the store to buy the product. As with advertisement, they already have all the information they need and they need to go to the store and see the product to make the decision, right? So they can decide at home or they can decide through social media, I don't know, through ads, right? Something like that. We are focusing on the point of saving time. Has to be different than what Brad said.
Compare the products, watching a different advertising of different marks, brands.
Okay. But how's that related to saving time, right? Let's explore more that idea.
Can we change the person?
You want to change to Karen?
Yes.
I think it's better.
All right.
Yes,
You
because
could.
we get stuck.
Okay. Do you have a reason for Karen's opinion?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say I completely support Karen's opinion. So besides, what was Karen's point? That people
Advertising. People ignore advertising.
people don't consider it to be valuable, right? So people try to avoid ads. So we're gonna say that most people try to avoid advertising, right? Because that's what Karen said. In her point, her main point is that most people don't think that advertising is valuable and they try to avoid it, right? That's why they use ad blockers. They try to block advertising in mobile phones and computers. But in general, they just try to avoid advertising, right? That was Karen's point. So now we have to give our own reason. What's your reason?
We could.
I'm sorry, Alejandra? Maybe I think there's one obvious point here. You know, you could say that advertisement usually don't contain true information, right? So some ads are not really like accurate when describing the product. They want to make it looks like a perfect product, even though it's not, most of the time it's not, right? So you could say that advertisement doesn't really reflect the reality of how the product is, right? Maybe that's what you could say. How do we say that? What do we write?
Um, that ads don't show the reality of the product.
Right. So it is widely known. That's a phrase that you can always use for your writing. So it is widely known that ads don't show the reality of products, right? Or ads rarely show the reality of products. Maybe instead of don't show, ads rarely, hardly ever show the reality of products, right? That's your reason. Now let's explain it a little bit more. So how can we explain this? We can maybe give a fact. Try not to give a personal experience as an example, but you could try to be a bit more specific. So maybe talk about one specific types of ads. I don't know, a general example, right? Could do it. So what do you guys think? What can we do?
Ads that show that you can easier
Ads that
when
show, sorry, ads that show that you can.
ads that show you can make money easier only with a click um, is a fake news because you need to give money for begin in this area. To pay before enter to the pyramid way.
Right? Before entering to what?
Pyramidal.
Okay. Okay, so this is an example. I'm adding the transition or the words for example, right? So ads that show that you can make easy money, for example, are usually fake news as the user has to pay before entering to a pyramidal structure, right? So this is your explanation. That's great. That's it. Now, what's time? Okay. So another thing that you guys can do is challenge the point that was made in the other one. So for example, here now our opposing student would be Brad, right? Who said that advertisement is the first step when making a big purchase and that it shows important information, right? So we could say what you guys could do is challenge that point, but that is gonna be optional, okay? So this is optional. So for example, in this case, Brad said that it's the first step. So we could say, although, I don't know, although it is true that advertisement is usually the first step when making a purchase, Brad forgot to mention that, and then you challenge that point, right? And then you have to basically oppose or respond to that point. But that is optional, you know, that is another way of supporting your own response. So we're gonna continue writing the response probably next class, because I don't think we have enough time today. But basically the important thing now is that you get the idea on how this task works. Okay, we don't have too much information right now about the way that they score uh, this uh, this task either. We still don't have the rubrics, they haven't published it yet, but I think they're gonna do it soon, so we have more information with that. So this is something relatively new, then there's not much information. Okay, but we'll continue next class, and we'll finish writing the response. The good thing is that it's not that long, right? It's not as long as the other one. Let's see how many words we have right now. I don't know. Okay. Well, anyways, up until what we did today, do you guys have any questions?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. Do you think it's easier than the previous task? No? Really? It is easier.
Yes, teacher.
I think
This is it.
it is. Like, do you prefer writing a 100-word response or a full essay? Because the other one had to be 3 times what this one is, right? And you had to think of 2 reasons and 2 examples. And you had to have a long introduction. Your introduction here is 1 sentence, right? This is your introduction. So I would say it's a lot easier because before you had to think of way more things, way more elements. To be honest, what I would say is that yes, the questions are harder. The structure and what you have to do is easier, but the questions that they ask are harder. The questions now are about political science, business as you have here. So they are maybe a little bit more complicated than the ones you had before, but I think it's worth it because it's a lot shorter. You just have to think of one reason, one way to explain your response, and that's pretty much it. So we'll continue, we'll see. Maybe right now you don't think it's too easy because it's something new for you. We've done a lot for the independent writing, but the more we go with it, then the easier it gets. So do you guys have any questions before we go?
No,
No?
it's okay.
Okay, guys, and please don't forget today's survey. It should be on your screens. Okay, guys, thank you so much. See you next class. Bye-bye.